Welcome to the Bromley Adult Education College Digital Drop-In Podcast, getting you back to work with confidence.
Hello, I'm Jill Collier and welcome to episode 46 of the Digital Drop-In Podcast. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Councillor Christine Harris, who is our Mayor of Bromley. So hello, Madam Mayor.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm so curious to dive into what it looks like being the Mayor of Bromley and how you balance that with all your other commitments. But I wondered whether you could just give me a little potted history of how you ended up in the London Borough of Bromley, because you're a Scots lass, are you not?
I am indeed. I left home at 17 and financed myself through college, and my then husband was an engineer and the best opportunities for him were in London. So we came down here for 5 days and squeezed in as many interviews as we could. And I managed to find a Scottish chartered accountant in a firm just off Fleet Street in Whitefriars Street. So I could come down here and study Scottish chartered accountancy, even although I was in London. So I came down in September 1979, just after my 19th birthday, and have worked here ever since. I went from accountancy to group chief accountant in, working my way up to that, as it was a small family business, Bernard Sunley in Beckenham, and I went from management to financial to group chief accountant because we took over various other construction companies. And luckily, one of them we took over was in Scotland. So my work did involve being flown first class to Scotland and having time with my relatives.
So wonderful. I'm afraid I didn't realise there's actually a differences there between Scottish accountancy and English accountancy.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
Not hugely, but it's a different institute. You know, you have Scottish chartered, English chartered, certified. But yes, Scottish was...
So from London, you got a job in Beckenham, so that's what brought you to the London Borough of Bromley? Or?
Yes. I was living in Featherbed Lane, first of all, and then I bought a property in West Wickham in 1992. And I had been working in Beckenham from 1987, as I said, staying there and working up through the company. And I think that construction work is what has made me feel at ease and comfortable with every single person that I've met as mayor, because in that company I could be speaking to scaffolders or roofers or anyone who would be, threatening to shoot me in the kneecaps or set their dogs on me because they haven't been paid, and the next minute you'd be speaking to Tiny Rollins about your treasury deposit. So you adjusted all the time to who you were speaking to make them feel important and listen to, whatever their background is. And obviously coming from a very, very working class background myself, and working my way up to a successful career and now have my own business, I think that I adjust to the company that I'm with and who I'm speaking to very well.
Well, I mean, that is an extremely useful skill, and it's something that you can't really train someone to do. You sort of have to learn on the job, don't
That's right.
you? And
yeah.
Yes, I've had a very similar experience, and I think yes, that sort of experience is priceless, isn't it?
It is.
So having a keen eye for facts and figures, and I'm sure an attention to detail, which you have to have in accountancy. How did that sort of then take you into politics? Did you just have an interest?
Basically, I've been, I guess, a volunteer. I've been involved in various associations all my life, from very, very young, from being a club leader at 15, 16, through to all sorts of things. So when I had my first son, I hadn't quite realised how I would never be able to hand him over to anyone else and go back to work. So I manoeuvred things that I could stay home. Luckily, my company was moving to Watford, and I helped them with that move and then was made redundant. So I stayed home with my son and then my second son, and my son says now, "You never dumped us anywhere, Mum." So I was cub leader, scout leader. I was running up and down the sides at Beckenham swimming pool, doing the timing. I was fundraising chairperson at the under 12s at Bromley Rugby Club. I was running the old church schools halls, renting them out, doing the risk assessment. So whatever the children were involved, I was a governor for 17 years and on the PTA that whole time. Then I was chair of a residents association for 16 years while we were living in Langley Park. And a few of my friends who were councillors said, "You help so many people, you really should do it officially."
Right.
But I didn't at first because I'd just brought my dad home from Spain who had terminal cancer, and looking after him and having time was more important. So I didn't do it in 2014 when they suggested. But by 2018, the next elections, the boys had left school. I wasn't needing to be governor anymore. So I got involved in Beckenham Conservative Association. And then I won a by-election in December 2018.
Right. Yes. So it was more from the, I'm not sure if you call it charitable, but the fact that you have given your time so willingly and freely was what took you in, rather than maybe a political.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I am not a highly political person. I have obviously become more involved since 2018, but my reason for doing it was, I think if you've been given a gift, you have to use it for other people.
Yes.
And I have been given a gift. I'm like a dog with a bone, and I won't give in till I get the best result possible. Sometimes people just don't know where to start, and sometimes they just need some help. You know, I've been on a Sunday holding a lady's hand for 2 hours who's partially sighted, very immobile, but has been looking after her husband for 13 years who's got dementia. People just need a bit of support, and they need to know you're there. It's more than just being your GP or your social worker. They need to know that you're there because you want to be and because you're going to do everything to help. I never send an email to an officer and think that's the end of my job, I've done it now. I will keep involved till, I'm not saying I will always get what I'd really like to get, but I will get the best I can. And in Bromley, we are so blessed with hundreds of thousands of volunteers. You know, as a council, we'd like to be up at the top of the scale given this service, and if we're realistic, we're a little bit below that because of constraints put on us, not because of our lack of effort. And we have, that gap is filled by so many hardworking, committed volunteers in Bromley. And it's nice as a councillor to be involved with them and to let them know how much they're appreciated and what a great job they do. And it's even better doing that as mayor, you know, to have that opportunity to work a room and personally thank people for everything they do. That's really special.
I hear everything you're saying, but I think also you're a very proactive person, aren't you? I think you're not just there holding the hand. I think you are.
I am very proactive, yes.
Yes, so, you know, what a wonderful sort of position to be in, that you can help so many. And yes, I'm ashamed to admit I didn't realise how many volunteers there were in Bromley. Would you say it's higher than some of the other boroughs?
I would say absolutely. When we first had COVID and we asked for volunteers, I think we had over 4,000 volunteers the first day.
Really?
We are blessed in Bromley with such committed people with community spirit and prepared to give up their time.
Yes. I think it's maybe a British thing anyway, because I remember in the 2012 Olympics, I was kind of a little bit nervous going to all these new places I'd never been to. And from the moment you stepped off a train, there was volunteers absolutely everywhere with smiles on their faces. Where are you going? What are you seeing? And just totally mentored me through every single kind of expedition I was doing with a young child at the time.
Yes.
And I think that was the first time it struck me how amazing volunteers are really, you know. So yes, the fact that we have so many in Bromley, that's amazing.
And we have our volunteers reception coming up in the next week or so, where, you know, councillors are asked, is there a particular volunteer that you want to be recognised and awarded? We do that every year, so we have a volunteer reception.
Well, that's really nice that they are recognised in that way, isn't it? So at some point, and maybe it was when you had your children, you started your own business.
Yes.
So you own a business. You are the councillor for West Wickham.
Correct.
Was it formerly Eden Park and it just the area got bigger, or that was when you were a councillor for?
Well, I've always thought that people respect you more being the councillor where you live.
Right.
And I lived in Langley Park from 2005 to 2021.
Right.
The house I live in now, my family home, I rented out all that time and bought another house in Langley Park. My boys wanted to go to Langley Boys School, and Langley Park was just the most amazing place to grow up. You know, 42 acres of parks and greens, and a lovely a gate we all contributed to go through to the Park Langley Tennis Club.
Right.
So my children could go for tennis, they could go for lunch, they could go up with their friends without even leaving where we lived.
Right.
So I was elected in the Kelsey and Eden Park by-election.
Right, I'm with you.
And then this time around, because of being a governor for 17 years, I know as many people in West Wickham, which is right next to Kelsey and Eden Park. So I felt, I'm back in West Wickham now, I'd like to be a West Wickham councillor.
Right.
So Kelsey and Eden Park have got 3 great new, hands-on, very committed councillors. So I've left them in safe hands.
In very good hands, great. So running your own business, and that has to be, you know, as you're saying, when you're doing accountancy, it has to be done on time. It can't be a day late. So you've got that commitment. You are councillor for West Wickham and mayor of Bromley.
Yes, that's the big one at the moment. That's the busiest one.
That is the biggest one.
But when you take a deep, yes, it is really busy. It's really hectic. Plus, I try to get to Spain to look after my mum, and I'm probably going to be bringing her home. Yes, it is hectic. But when you stop for a second to think, I am the King's representative in Bromley, it takes your breath away. I mean, when we go into, it's something other than the 2 days my children were born, this is the most important thing in my life. When we're walking into the council chamber and the attendant bangs that door 3 times and says, please be upstanding for the worshipful Mayor of Bromley Council, I have to take a deep breath and pull yourself together.
That's me.
It's just unbelievable, and it's such an honour, you know, and it's just something that you sometimes can't believe.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, and yes, it is for a year, and you're blessed to receive that, you know, amazing sort of honour. Has it been as you expected? I know you have been a deputy mayor a few years ago, so you presumably had an idea of what you were letting yourself in for, but has it been as you expected? Has there been any surprises?
It has been to a certain degree as I expected. What I didn't realise, because I was the deputy, Councillor Hannah Gray as mayor, she was attending more meetings here in the parlour, more planning of what events she could go to. And then, you know, obviously Peter has been an attendant for many, many years, and he's more than the right-hand man. He is the main person. We don't want to turn down any event. So myself and the deputy mayor, Peter, the mayor's office, we go through everything we've been invited to on a weekly basis. And, you know, there are 3 or 4 events a day that we can follow on, and deputy might have 2 or 3, I might have 3 or 4, we might have 2 days with nothing, but we try to attend everything. That part of it I was ready for. It was just not the planning and the meetings, but I'm okay with that now. When I was deputy mayor, it was one of the reasons that you would then want to be mayor. It was such an amazing time to literally cover every inch of this borough attending street parties, and the enthusiasm and the community spirit. People had just come out of COVID. They hadn't been able to socialise with their family, their friends, their neighbours, and suddenly we were having these amazing Platinum Jubilee parties. And because Councillor Gray and myself didn't want to turn any down, we were literally marching into the street party, trying to find the person who was organising it, suggesting that we do a speech and that we gather everyone around us for photographs. And we weren't really able to stay long because we didn't want to turn any street party down. And I'll always remember to do quite a good speech quickly. My speech to them was, you have now met people in this road and in this street you've never spoken to before. You might have seen them walk past with their dog. You might have said hello as you go out to your car, but you've now met them and you've got your street WhatsApp groups. Don't wait for another civic reason, another national reason to get together. As chair of a residents association, I have an Easter egg hunt, I have a summer fun day, I have the Rotary Club round with their sleigh at Christmas and their collections and their carol singing, and we do mulled white wine on the drive. Don't wait for a big reason to do it. Keep supporting each other, because if COVID's taught us anything, it's that we needed our friends, whether it was over the garden fence or on the phone or whatever. The weird thing was, me telling them, don't wait for another civic event, how could we have known that some months later we would have the coronation?
Yes.
We say we had the sad passing of the Queen, which involved the mayor and myself at many very emotional services. And again, we all needed to support each other in the borough. People were so upset about it. So again, we were all supporting each other. And then to lift us again, we had the coronation. So exactly what I said to people, don't wait. We actually had another event. But anyone I've met, any volunteers I've met since then, I think their own little communities have carried on. They are still doing something, which is lovely. So the busy part of it I knew, and now I'm on top of all the other planning.
Right. And as Mayor of Bromley, you get to pick the charities that you support for
That's
a
right.
year.
Yes.
And I noticed you've picked 2. May I ask, there is no bad charity. How you pick charities but what made you?
Well, first of all, I felt I would be asking people in the London Borough of Bromley and friends and members to support the charities, so I wanted them to be local. I wanted London Borough of Bromley residents to benefit. And I wanted it to be something that I would always be able to speak from the heart about. I didn't want to have written speeches when I go to events. I wanted to be able to speak from the heart. And they say things happen for a reason. And in my own business, a friend had asked me to start managing 4 apartments, which she owns one of, to set up a limited company, whatever. Literally just when I was about to choose my charities. And I said, I would really like to choose a cancer charity. I brought my dad over from Spain when he had terminal cancer, and myself and my 2 boys looked after him for 6 months, which was, very, very stressful, difficult time when you're trying to stay strong all the time. And I wasn't just staying strong for my dad, I was staying strong for my boys. Yes. My dad's had lived in Spain the last 30 years, and his grandsons had only ever seen him building a pool house, building an irrigation system. They'd never seen him with as much as a cold. And now he was home and we were looking after someone disappearing in front of our eyes. And strangely, she said, I'm involved in a new charity, Madlani Cancer, based in Orpington. So I asked her about that. I spoke to the lady who set it up. And she'd set it up because of her own journey through cancer. She found when she was in remission that there wasn't any support then. And I just admire her so much. Instead of the relief of being in remission and thinking, I'm going to live every day to the full, she took that experience to help other people. And since my dad died, there was times with my sons that it was so upsetting. My youngest son would say, please, Mum, don't ask me to help you lift him. And my dad had 2 hip replacements, so you had to be careful how you put him in bed. And I got my son to help me, and he shot off. Admittedly, he was only 14, 15, and he shot off. And he said, I don't want to help lift my granddad anymore because I can feel his bones and I'm frightened I'll hurt him. And afterwards, you realise that your own sons were not speaking to you about their pain because they could see what you were going through. So if we'd been involved with somebody like Madlani, they would have been independent people to support us that they could have spoken to.
Yes.
So I think that's a really great charity,
Yes.
because it's somebody taking their own experience and knowing what is needed and dealing with that. When I've been to their coffee mornings, I've made my way around the whole room speaking to everyone. And when you find that some people don't have family and they were travelling by bus to London for chemo, that's very scary. One, they shouldn't be in the public doing something like that when they're in treatment. And 2, there was no one to take them, no one to help them, no one to look after them. So it's just such a great charity. So that was the first one. The second one, dyslexia. My son is dyslexic, and it was a dreadful journey through school.
Yes.
I recognised at 4.5 that he was dyslexic and took him to the institute, whatever, who confirmed it. But schools don't want to recognise that till 7, because then they don't have to provide classroom assistance or help or whatever. But I knew my son was dyslexic, despite being accused of comparing him to a very clever son. Being numeracy and literacy governor, I knew my son was dyslexic. He was really, really unhappy at school. He felt stupid, he felt thick, and I had to do something about it. And I'm not a wealthy person, so I had to remortgage my house and take my son to a tiny school for dyslexia, which gave him some confidence. But for secondary, he wanted to go back to being with his brother in Langley Boys, where I was a governor anyway. So because I am such a proactive person, as you say, I managed to... My son didn't want to stand out different to anyone else. Although I got him a classroom assistant, he didn't want that person sat next to him because, Joshua's got a person. So I said to him, okay, we sat down with special needs, and I said, if you behave, he's got ADHD too. If you behave and you're not jumping around and you're concentrating, this lovely lady can be classroom assistant to everyone. She'll walk around and help everyone. But if you misbehave, she's going to be sat beside you. So it was a bit of bribery, but, it worked. He concentrated and she was there primarily for him, but it meant the whole class had a classroom assistant when there was no funding for that. That Brilliant. Couldn't, just couldn't afford that. No. So, but Joshua's journey through school was really sad. I can't solve the dyslexia issues in Bromley, I can't. But when I speak to our education people here, or if I go to schools or the dyslexic charity, if somebody can recognise earlier on, let's not push these children to 7 or 8 qualifications. Let's just push English and maths.
Yes.
Let's get the C for English and maths. My son could have worked for BMW or Mercedes, which we'd already lined up, if he'd just got a C in English and maths, which he didn't. So he spent a few years not knowing what he wanted to do and trying various things. And then I got him through a client into roofing, and then through another contact into another bigger roofer company. And for the first time in my son's life at 26, he was asking me to buy roofing books because he's studying something that is what he's doing every day. And he's studying it on a roof or in a workshop, not in a college, 2 or 3 days a week.
There's a purpose then, isn't there?
And I just feel what Joshua and I have gone through. I said to Josh, will it embarrass you if I talk about our journey? And he said, if you could help one person get there before I did, Mum, then it's fine. You tell them whatever you have to tell them.
Oh, I mean, I have a dyslexic daughter, again, ADHD, and I think school is not a good place for them. And that's the irony. Once they're in the big wide world, it actually doesn't really impact on their life because they find a job that's suitable for them, and everything kind of slots into place. Like you say with your son, if he's reading a book on roofing because he's up on a roof and he wants to do a good job, that has a purpose.
That's right.
But learning, I don't know, algorithms and logarithms in maths. I mean, I sat in school thinking, why am I looking at these books on logarithms? I can work it out, but I don't know why I'm doing it. And so thankfully, once our gorgeous children do get into the big wide world, they do see their future open up. But I do agree it's not a great place for what the academic institutions haven't really caught up with the needs of dyslexia.
That's right. The whole thing is, I mean, I bought all the kit from the Dyslexic Institute about how a dyslexic child needs to be taught. And I took that, before I took him out of school to the private school, I took that into school at lunchtimes and I sat down with Josh to do it. And then I realised it wasn't fair. With his ADHD, he needed to run off some steam at lunchtime, not be sitting with his mum, being taught the way he should be taught in the classroom. So everything just goes over their head if they're not taught that way. And we had some dreadfully upsetting experiences. I suggested that, being a governor, we believe that every child should achieve whatever their level is. Every child should have value added. So when you're all being given the same spelling test and you get 1 out of 10 when other people are getting 9 out, you're not going to feel you've achieved. No. So I suggested that we had different levels of spelling for groups that we could identify. If we give them this, they're going to achieve, they're going to feel good. So this is what I suggested. And the next week my son came out when I thought he's going to say, yeah, I got 7 or 8 out of 10. I said, what happened, Josh? What did you get? What did you get? Oh, don't worry, Mum. They said I was too thick and I don't need to do the test.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness.
So, that's the sort of thing you have to make sure doesn't happen.
I mean, I think your son was particularly unlucky. In my generation, yes, one was put into the remedial class because they didn't know what to do with them. But at your son's age, I'm amazed they didn't know better.
And things like he would get into fights because people have taken the mick out of him because he's the child that goes out to the porta cabin in the playground for half an hour with the other teacher. Children can be cruel, and if they can find something to have a dig at, they will.
So the charity that I've gone off topic here because it's so passionate to both of us, but the dyslexia charity you have chosen, where does that?
So it's in
schools, is it?
Or? They are. I think actually they should change their name slightly because the word charity isn't in there, and I think that people don't even realise it is a charity.
Yes.
It is the Dyslexia Association for Bexley, Bromley, Greenwich and Lewisham. And I think that you're missing something there, not having the word charity. I mean, I didn't know about it when Josh was dyslexic. I didn't really know about it. So whatever we manage to raise for them will be ring-fenced to Bromley, obviously.
Oh, right. Yes, because I did think it's covering a very large area.
I wanted local charities, so it will be ring-fenced for Bromley. So they do various things. They do go into schools and they do give advice and they do hold meetings once a month. I'm not sure that they are, I don't think they have enough volunteers to be very proactive in fundraising.
Right.
I think they're more involved in being there for support and guidance and interaction with the schools. Whereas one of the companies that wanted to invite me along as mayor, and unfortunately decided health and safety wise the building wasn't quite ready for the mayor, but I'm hoping to be invited back, is a company that does refurbished laptops.
Right.
And gets those laptops into school. So I would like the two ladies I deal with in the Dyslexic Association to come with me to that and get involved in that. So that was another thing. I bought Josh a laptop that had 7 hours battery life because he's entitled to it in classroom. But he didn't want it because he didn't want to sit there in a laptop. Whereas I would have thought nowadays, you know, if we can have that laptops are a commonplace in classes, then that would help dyslexic people not feel they are different from anyone else. So I'm keen to be invited when they've sorted out their building to this company in West Wickham that deal with refurbished laptops.
I think the only thing we have to bear in mind is both dyslexia and ADHD are kind of umbrellas, and there is so many different levels to that. And I think when ADHD is involved, they don't always have, I'm speaking from experience with my daughter, they don't always have the desire to be able to sit and learn how to type.
That's right.
And so my daughter has done every single exam handwritten because she sees me typing at speed, but she's like, no, I just don't want to invest the time in learning to type. So you've got another barrier to get, because once they've done it once, then they can type.
They could realise the help that it's given them and the spell check and etc. etc.
Yes.
But he just didn't want to sit there with a laptop when no one else had one.
No. So, well, I think you've got, that is a passion of yours that I'm so pleased to hear, because it's something that's going to roll, isn't it, with education and all these different learning.
And you will not believe the number, every single event I've gone to, whether it's golf, bowls, a charity, every single event where I've spoken about my charities, I've had at least half a dozen people come up to me afterwards and say, I'm so pleased you've chosen that. I haven't heard that being chosen before.
Right.
My son, my grandson, there has always been a few people at every event that come and thank you for choosing that because they struggled with their son, it wasn't recognised, etc., etc. So it's been very popular with everyone that I've met.
Well, I'm so glad you did pick those two charities then. May I ask you, Madam Mayor, completely off topic, is there, in all the years you've lived in the London Borough of Bromley, is there a specific area or a little place in the London Borough of Bromley that you like best? Or
I think because, as I said, I gave up my job to be with my children. Every single day, Elliot, my first child, would wake up and say, where are we going today? And we would have a mothers and toddlers every morning, or a baby gym. Then we'd have lunch and we'd do something else. And that could maybe be coming to the Glades when the swimming had the flumes there those days.
We used to go there.
Or in the summer, being PTA and governor, we all got together at different parks every day in the summer. So we loved Kelsey Park. Right. And I was living there across from the park then anyway. So because it was just a whole day's event, and it didn't cost a lot of money. No. You take your own picnic. Yes, you were buying ice creams. The kids would be doing mini golf, which was not very expensive. They could take their rackets and play tennis. They had the swing park. They had feeding the ducks. We could take some football. We could do rounders. It was just, Kelsey Park is just such a beautiful place. And obviously on my watch as councillor, I was pushing for the bridge to be done and, you know, to get on and on. So Kelsey Park was really lovely. Our other favourite, we always had once a week too, was Croydon Road Rec, again, which ended up being the borough, the ward that I became. So again, I was on the case for the bandstand to be refurbished.
Wonderful.
And that was really, really long but interesting journey, you know, involving heritage. And of course, we just got to the point of accepting a tender and going to have the work done. And then it got listed status. So then we were going through it all again. So, of course, it was the only park with a big paddling pool. So again, we had the paddling pool, the tennis, huge swing park. That was a great day out as well. So I'd say Kelsey Park and Croydon Road Rec. And now the paddling pool is kind of beyond repair, and health and safety over the years have changed. So now it's going to be a sort of water theme area, you know, where kids press soft buttons and the water comes through, or they run through little showers. So it won't be a paddling pool as such, but it will be big water features. So no doubt at some point I'll take grandchildren there if I'm lucky enough to have them.
Yes, but those are both great choices, actually. Yes, it is I mean, we are blessed with an awful lot of parks and green spaces in our borough, aren't we?
I think a lot of people moved down from London to Bromley in COVID. I mean, we say that Bromley is London's best borough. And why? Because it is so green. Every single ward in this borough has fantastic parks, you know, who all benefited from the Platinum Jubilee Fund, the £20,000 for, you know, doing your new signs or doing something else in your playground. It is such a fantastic borough to live in. Yes. When I was deputy mayor, I went to parks I didn't even know about. Beautiful park in Chislehurst, where they had such a hands-on team of friends. They had achieved so much there. They had outdoor table tennis. They'd got involved with the local football team, so they got an amazing clubhouse and coffee shop. So when you get good friends off a park, anything's possible. You know, they're going to fundraise. I managed to resurrect the Friends of Harvington, who hadn't existed for about 15 years when I was ward councillor there, and they're so proactive. They do Christmas events and summer events. They're really great people. But as I said, we are blessed with good volunteers in Bromley.
We clearly are. I think that's what I was curious. I wondered, as mayor, but of course as deputy mayor, whether you had found any little spots that you didn't know about previously, because I've lived here for many years as well, and still I will go somewhere that I think I didn't know it existed.
Exactly.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Another great part of the mayoralty, which I didn't mention, is, and it's just such a privilege to do it, the citizenships.
Right.
The people who come here, it's now every other Tuesday, used to be every Tuesday, so there'll be maybe 45, 46 people going through the citizenship. And when I think about when I first came down here and I was studying accountancy, it wasn't enough to pay the bills. I was teaching RSA elementary bookkeeping in college. So you're studying, you're working, you're trying to impress the boss by getting the audit done, and you're not putting in all the hours you've worked on it because you want it to look like you've been so efficient. And I know what it was like to study and work 2 jobs. And these people doing the citizenship, it's a huge, huge commitment. I think it's, you know, around about £7,000, you know, for everything that you do. And a lot of these people are obviously holding down jobs and got families, you know, so if you've got a family and you're studying at the same time. And I'm so humbled by it, because I think these people probably know more history about this country than I do. But wanting to be an accountant, as soon as you were allowed to drop history at school, I dropped it because I was doing economics and secretarial and accountancy. These people are studying our history. And when I'm there, making them become a citizen, I say to them quite often in my speech, you probably can tell me something about this country. And I admire you so much for working hard and choosing Bromley to be where you become a citizen. That is a really lovely part of the mayoralty, to be a part of those ceremonies.
Well, it's lovely to hear that you can do some sort of joyous things like that as well. But I truly thank you for your time. I know I've taken far more than I said I would, but it's so lovely to hear, well, your passion, your tenacity for the job. I think you're an amazing, amazing woman. And the fact that we have the pleasure of having you as our mayor for a year is tremendous. So I hope you enjoy your year as much as we will enjoy having you as our mayor for this year.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your interest in coming to see me.
No, thank you very much for your time, Madam Mayor.
This podcast has been produced by Jill Collier for Bromley Adult Education College. For help with all your job searching needs, do visit one of our digital drop-in venues. Our free sessions are advertised on our website at www.baec.ac.uk or telephone 0208 659 7976. We offer free use of computers for job searching, advice on creating a winning CV, plus lots of short training courses to gain skills in the digital world. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast to receive notifications of new episodes.